This video is brought to you by AudioQuest, makers of the Dragonfly range of USB DACs. Click to audioquest.com for more information.
Don't you just hate it when you update your iPad or your iPhone and then iOS or iPadOS asks you to update your Apple Pay settings every time you do an update? And I'm like, I didn't want Apple Pay on my iPhone or my iPad before the update, and I don't want it afterwards, so stop asking me. Anyway, first world problems, bit of a grump to start with. In this video about a previous video. Last week we made a video about the Chord Mojo 2 and why I thought it was, I think by far actually, the best DAC of 2022. And a lot of my argument hinged upon versatility. But it wasn't just versatility, and we'll come to that in a moment, because what I've done is I've put some of the best comments received underneath that video into an iPad, well, into a Google Doc on an iPad, and I'm going to read them out and then respond to them kind of spontaneously, really. But thank you to everybody who watched that Chord Mojo 2 DAC video. I think it's reached nearly 70,000 views. So the first comment comes from Spencer Gilhooly, and he writes, "God bless you, John. You just solved something that's been bugging me for ages. Why do I hear very random, very intermittent interference whilst listening to my iPad Pro through a Dragonfly Red into a Graham Slee Voyager? iPad's aerial trying to connect to a cell tower." Yep, that's probably it, because in my Chord Mojo 2 video, I showed how I Velcroed the Mojo 2 to the back of an iPhone 13 mini and used that as a very pocketable and definitely physically stable portable audio rig. Next comment is a criticism of the Chord Mojo 2, and I think a very valid one, and one that I did not address in my first video. And this comment comes from Sid Wilson. He writes, "Sadly, I am a red-green colorblind and memorizing all these color adjustments is really difficult. I bought one but couldn't use those over complicated color button combinations. Got to agree, even in default, it sounds brilliant. Thank you for your amazing reviews that help us all decide what products to buy." You're welcome, but obviously I'm not just making these videos to help with buying advice. I mean, that's part of what I do, but also a major component of what I do is just entertainment. It's just something to watch. I guess you might call it infotainment. So a bit of information, bit of entertainment, sort of all mixed in, and hopefully it looks and sounds reasonably okay to you. Okay, the next comment comes from John Callahan, and he writes, "Had you said the most versatile, you might have had a better case. For 300 quid less, you could try the AUNE 8 Magic DAC." Is it AUNE or AUNE? I don't know. Also a non-Sigma Delta FPGA DAC, upgraded with a Sparkos op-amp. Not portable, but it sounds so very good and has balanced outputs. The AUNE competes with, and some say betters, in my view at least equals, though a different sound signature, my Traduto DAC, which is itself currently £100 more than the Mojo. For anyone not interested in the portability, the $300 saving of the AUNE could be put towards something else or simply left unspent. Yes, but as I said at the start of this video, my argument for the Mojo 2 being the best DAC of 2022 hinged upon, two axes, if you like. Sound quality. I think it is one of the best sounding DACs at its price point, certainly in terms of detail, punch, avidity, dynamics, separation, those kinds of qualities. This is not what you would call a musical DAC. Not at all. It's what you might call an accurate DAC, right? As if we could possibly know that, but we can't. But whatever. Those are the words that I tend to see written on forums, by people in describing certain products. And so, yeah, I would say the Mojo 2 is definitely more of an accurate DAC than a musical DAC. But the other reason that I think the Mojo 2 is the best DAC of the year is because of its versatility, and because of its versatility based upon portability. So, John, when you say like, well, if we ignore portability, well, I'm sorry, I can't ignore portability because that's pivotal to my argument, right? The Mojo 2 is a great, great, great sounding DAC in a hi-fi system, but it's also a great, great, great sounding DAC out on the road or on a train or on a plane or anywhere outside of the house. So when you say, oh, we should ignore that and then we can consider all these other options, yeah, we could if we weren't considering portability, but I am. On that note, Somerset writes, I agree. It's the single most versatile, competent audio device of all time. It's a bit cool. What you may have missed is that the amp inside has enough current delivery to power high efficiency speakers directly, even on a battery. Add a Poly and you have a portable, highly resolving, super integrated / streaming amp for hours of off the grid listening. Perfect for enjoying your DIY high efficiency horns at the cabin. It's true. Yes, a lot of Chord DACs can be used to drive loudspeakers directly. I've never done this, I've never seen it done, but I have read about it, I have heard about it. So you can take a cable straight out of the Mojo 2 and connect it directly to the back of a pair of very high efficiency loudspeakers. I think you probably need maybe 90 plus dB, maybe 95 dB, but I think that's a very, very niche / nerdy use case. It is interesting, it is possible, but I don't think that's what 99.9% of Mojo 2 users will be doing. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 comments here, which I think, yeah, were pretty brutal. I'll read them all out in one go. So Mark Kant writes, it's way too expensive for what you get. Build quality is a laugh. Mark Williams writes, looks of a child's toy, an expensive one. Kuldip Singh writes, if it was $50, I would buy it because that's all it's worth. It looks cheap. Peter Freeman writes, why do they make them look so cheap and awful? And then Jovan Nikolic writes, because it is. He's replying to Peter. Yeah, because it is. It should cost between $100 and $150. Now, Jovan, this one's especially for you. If you think that this, I've got it here actually, in its leather case, the Mojo 2. If you think this Mojo 2 should cost $100 or $150, then before I get to what I really want to say, I want you to consider this. This case is solid aluminum or aluminium if you're in Europe or the UK or Australia. It's super solid. If I drop this onto the sidewalk or on the pavement, it's not going to break like a phone screen. And I have dropped this. And I can't believe actually there's not a single mark on it. These things are extremely robust. The other thing is they're made in England, in Kent. So really, Jovan, if you think that an aluminium shell product can be made in the UK for a build cost that would allow retail pricing to sit at $100 or $150, I would really invite you very quickly to email John Franks or Matthew Bartlett at Chord Electronics and let them know, because I know they'd love to hear from you in how this can be done. Because if you know this, then really, I think you should really share this information with them, because then we can all benefit from a much cheaper Chord Mojo 2, right? Now, along similar lines, Wilson Hines writes, one thing I think nobody really talks about with the Mojo line is the build quality. On YouTube and Instagram, to me personally, they look cheaply made. But in person, they are highly engineered aircraft aluminium and with a wonderful look and feel. And yeah, I agree. I actually didn't think I had to mention this because I thought most of my viewers / commenters know what the Mojo is, the Mojo 2 is, and know that it's made of aluminium. And that's my failing for assuming that, because it's kind of silly for me to assume that, as 70,000 people who watch this video would know that it's, a solid brick of a device. I mean, this weighs, what, 120 grams? But yeah, it's super solid. Now we move to another set of complaints, and again I'll read them all out. This isn't all of them actually, I just picked like 5 or 6 of the ones I could find most readily. Kevin Weber writes, was extremely interested till John said USB micro powered. I'll never buy anything with that connector now, sick of it. Everything should be USB-C or Lightning for iPhone. Is this only for mobile? And then MOSFET Amplifier writes, why do Chord continue using the micro USB? That's the reason I'm not buying it. Okay. Mugan Power writes, still micro USB in 2022? And then Tom Young writes, I'm sorry, but I just can't justify getting a micro USB product in 2022. And then leading into my response for this, Rick Deckard wrote, hi John, hope you are well. Can't believe you didn't mention Poly as a natural companion for Mojo 2. And you're right, I didn't want to complicate the video actually. I just wanted to really emphasize how Mojo 2 can be used, basically, if I can put these together right now, on the back of a phone. I got Velcro here, and they go together like this. And they're roughly the same size, right? So that's what I wanted to show. I didn't want to complicate the message with Poly. This is Poly. This is a network streaming attachment. I've made a video about this before. There's loads of information about this on the net already. I'm not going to go through it again, but basically it's like a Roon-ready endpoint. Does it do Spotify Connect yet? I'm not sure. And it has a micro SD card input, and it also adds Bluetooth. Now, when this was designed, it was designed for the original Mojo, which was micro USB powered and had a micro USB data input. So in order for this to get its power and its data into the Mojo and the Mojo 2, it uses 2 micro USB sockets here, because that's what was on the Mojo 1, and they're still here. In order for the Poly to still work with the Mojo 2. That's the reason why. That's the reason why Mojo 2 has micro USB sockets. So that basically Chord didn't have to basically create a Poly 2 and then essentially alienate anybody who owned the original Mojo and the original Poly and wanted to upgrade to Mojo 2, because then obviously they would have to upgrade to Poly 2 as well. So I definitely understand why Chord made the tough decision to keep these 2 micro USB sockets here. However, the reason that I'm now able to use this as a portable DAC with my phone is not because of micro USB, because with the original Mojo, with the little data fly lead that connected to my phone, that used to come out of here all the time. But the USB socket, which sits underneath here, that's a much tighter socket. It grips the cable connector much more firmly, and it's never come out, not once, even when I've pushed it into my pocket. So yeah, USB-C here is for anybody that wants it, because I know people that want it, but complaining that there's still a legacy port, I don't think it's that much of an inconvenience to use micro USB myself. I mean, I think most of us have those kinds of cables knocking around the house. It's not ideal. Obviously, it would be great if it was just USB-C, but then you wouldn't have Poly connectivity. So I think a lot of these comments, these criticisms that are kind of thrown out there, are made from a point of ignorance. Now, I don't mean ignorant as in stupid or rude, and I had to look up the Google definition here just to make sure that I wasn't too far off the mark. But I'm really looking at the part 1 here, lacking knowledge or awareness in general. I think these sort of criticisms about build quality as seen from a video, or criticisms about micro USB and not understanding the reasons why, come from a place of ignorance, because people obviously don't know. There's not really a lot I can do about that apart from kind of respond to them here. But yeah, a few of you commenters picked up on those ignorant comments, and I've never seen this before in my comment section, where commenters talk about how frustrated they are with other commenters. So Small Sound 7 Frankie wrote, why so many lazy / no effort comments? If you don't like something, at least state objective, well-argumented facts that prove your point. I think that it's an insult to the effort the creator puts in this and every video, and it honestly makes me feel bad, only by imagining being in his position to read all that. Please let us stay constructive and positive, otherwise there's no point having a community. True, you know, I don't worry about these comments too much. I mean, I am sort of singling them out here to make the point that there are a lot of ignorant commenters out there, but also they remind me of my dad. So when I was a kid, right, we were watching TV in the 80s. Let's say my dad was watching Top of the Pops, right? And let's say it was Depeche Mode or Duran Duran. He would say things like, "What the bloody hell's he wearing? Looks like a bloody girl." Or just ignorant comments like that. Or I remember one classic where I think early 80s, we were watching Tomorrow's World. British people will know what I'm talking about here. Tomorrow's World was a TV show dedicated to forthcoming or future technologies. And we were watching the episode about the new CD player. And I remember, I'll never forget this, my dad going, "What a load of rubbish, that's never going to catch on. Look at it, it's just terrible." And then I'm sure he'd be watching other things where, you know, somebody would be making a very sophisticated, I don't know, let's say a garden shed. And let's say it sold for $500. My dad would be like, "What a load of rubbish, what a rip-off. You could go down to the hardware store and get a bunch of 2x4 and make that for $100 yourself." You know, and it was just my dad venting and yelling at the TV, which I guess, you know, nobody was really hurt by that because it was out and then it was gone. And people who kind of write these sort of ignorant comments underneath my YouTube videos, other people's YouTube videos on forums, I just see them like my dad yelling at the TV. I don't pay them any mind unless I can gather them to make a point, as I have done in this video, and also as has disappointed Christian Lopez, because he writes, "Disappointed with the shallow negative comments here, especially given that their brevity also makes me think those being dismissive are doing so without any direct experience, meaning therefore they are also probably wrong." Yes, lots of people love to comment without any direct experience with anything. And in the hi-fi world, direct experience is in very short supply because it takes effort to go out and hear something. And it's much easier just to stay at home and just kind of sit at your keyboard and murmur, 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 murmur. "What a load of rubbish, that'll never catch on," just like my dad yelling at the TV. Super easy to do that, and it is the easy way out, especially if you just make a short dismissive comment, as Christian has pointed out. And then Kerry Farrell writes, "I almost never read internet comments, and now I remember why. How are so many of us entitled, spoiled, mannerless brats?" I really appreciate your work, John. Thank you for this award video. I look forward to hearing a chord deck sometime soon. Again, harsh words, but it's true. And maybe this is my own fault because I've picked up an absolute shit ton of new subscribers. Probably going to lose them now actually after this video, but whatever. New subscribers from doing AirPods Pro and doing the Sennheiser Bluetooth headphones. So, you know, if somebody's really rude, I just see it like somebody pulling up in front of your house, getting out of their car, undoing their pants, and then basically doing a great big steaming turd on your front lawn. And if somebody did that to you, you'd clean it up, wouldn't you? Because I do. Anyway, I don't want to end this video on a negative, so I'm going to end it on a positive. And this was a really great comment from a chap called Ratsism. And he writes, "Nice review, thanks. No review I've read or seen yet has managed to get one fact about the EQ across, and I feel it is quite important since many users are confused by it. This is the fact that both the mid-bass and upper mid-range / low treble settings are shelf settings, shelf filters." He's talking about the EQ. "Which means that all frequencies below or above the nominal setting will be affected by equal amount. For example, adding XdB to the mid-bass setting will add XdB all the way to the lowest sub-bass. Thus, if one wants to boost mid-bass but leave sub-bass alone, one should decrease the sub-bass setting to the same degree as one has boosted the mid-bass." This is super interesting. "The pics in the manual make this clear, but too many reviewers and users seem not to get it in my experience." Yeah, It is an interesting one. It is made clear in the manual, and they give you nice graphs showing what each of these EQ filters do. Because this is YouTube, and because I'm talking to a mixture of audiophiles and, let's say, more Sonos Apple people, I have to decide what's too technical or is technical enough that it might alienate some of my audience. So I tend to leave some of that stuff out, which is, I guess, a little bit frustrating for power users or the more audiophile type members of this audience. But that's just a call I have to make. But I'm always really happy to receive like extra information in the comments. I love this kind of comment because it advances the conversation, right? It doesn't try and drag it back or drag it into the gutter. It moves it forward. And I'm happy to receive critical comments about products that I talk about if it advances the conversation, if they are well thought out, well explained. You know, when people come along and go, I heard that and I thought it was shit. Okay, all right, you thought it was shit, but I guess you're not providing the kind of information that I provide in my videos. And what I mean by that is the context. The context is super important when giving your opinion about sound quality. So for example, let's say it was the Mojo 2. Which headphones did you use? Which music did you listen to? Or if it was a DAC inside a loudspeaker system, which loudspeakers, which amp? What was the room like? Again, what kind of music did you listen to? You need to really put the effort in, I think, to make your comment valuable to the other members of this community, because this community is important. And I think we should all be valuing them. I know I do. That's why I make these videos, is really, in most cases, to champion some of the great comments that I get. And I'm not talking about sycophantic comments. I very rarely read those out. I'm on about the ones that talk about some of the technical points, or maybe if I'm talking about the aesthetics of something or the comfort of a pair of headphones. Things that offer a different point of view, that are well articulated, well thought out. Those are the comments that I want, really, in an ideal world on this channel. Those are the comments that I will focus on when doing sort of response videos like this. So I hope you appreciate that, generally speaking, apart from today, my angle on reader comments is a positive one, just as I would love comments to be positive in the sense that they flesh out the context of an opinion. So if you dig that and you understand that the context that substantiates an opinion is important, then please consider giving this video a like down below. If you like my attitude towards community response videos like this, then please consider subscribing to this channel. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching.